My name is Zack Brewster, and I'm here with Paul Brewster. Today, on November 13th, 2017, we're going to be talking about music, more specifically, country and bluegrass. So, what got you interested in music? Was it at an early age? I know you come from a musical family, so tell me about that.
Pretty early age. Well, my dad, of course, played music back in the 40s, and he played with a guy named Kaz Walker for many, many years, and I kind of took it up from that and played, kind of did it on my own, really. He didn't really even know I was playing as much. But anyway, I got it from him. Learned all I could from him.
So you watched him play Cass Walker, you heard him on the radio. Were you ever with him when he did that, or was it always at home?
Well, no, it wasn't always at home. He took me to the studio a lot of times, took me to the radio station, and he didn't really teach me how to play as much, but I learned a lot by watching and listening with him. He used to spin records, he used to play on the radio, and he used to play on television. And I went to a lot of the shows and a lot of the morning shows he took me before I had to go to school. And I'd had to beg him a lot of times to take me, but he would take me before daylight. And I always ended up going with him and learn. I didn't realize what I was learning. I just enjoyed it. And that's kind of where I got a feel for it, or, got a love for the music, kind of.
Did you, so did he ever teach you to play guitar at home, or like you said, are you self-taught?
Well, I'm self-taught pretty much, but he showed me some things and sang some songs with me. If I sung harmony or knew some songs that he had already learned, I learned some songs that he did and kind of sung them, and he would sing harmony, or I'd sing harmony with him, and learned a few things like that. I mean, it wasn't all just me, but he helped me along the way too. But basically, I learned how to play before he really knew I knew how. So I kind of did that. I listened to a lot of Flatt and Scruggs and a lot of different bluegrass groups. I was interested mainly in bluegrass and country music.
Was he your inspiration to pick up guitar, or was it a specific song or a band that you can recall?
No, he was my first inspiration was my dad, because that's who I listened to. That's who took me to these things, to these shows and on TV and on radio, and I just learned a lot from him doing that, and so he was my first inspiration for sure.
Is it something you had planned? Because, like I know, because you're my dad, I grew up seeing you playing the Opry and going all over Europe. And is that something you had planned for yourself the moment you picked up the guitar, or is it just something you did and it took off on its own?
Well, it kind of took off on its own, really. I loved what I was doing. You have to have a love for what you're doing to want to continue on with it, pretty much. And I can't say that I fell into it. I've said that before, that I fell into it. I really didn't fall into it. I just happened to be in it, fortunate to be in it, and fortunate to watch my dad. But I love the music. I love bluegrass and country. I've always loved bluegrass and country. Rock and roll has really never been a part of my music listening. I mean, I happened to listen to it because that was what they played on the radio. And so I knew a lot of the songs, and a lot of people didn't like bluegrass and country music when I went to school and stuff like that, but I still always loved it. Like Barbara Mandrell and George Jones said, I was country before country was cool. And that's kind of the truth.
Yeah, that's those people are the kind of people that set that bar really high for music that took off around that time, because you had Hank Williams and like three other acts, and they were the only ones you'd hear on the radio. And over the course of the 50s and 60s, even in the 40s, you had Ralph Stanley and Bill Monroe. And were they people you listened to as well?
I listened to them periodically, but of course, like I said, I listened to my dad and Carl Story and Ramey Mountaineers. I was brought up with that. Because Dad played with them, and my Uncle Bud showed me an awful lot. And when I got out of high school, when I graduated from high school, I had learned the guitar on my own and got with a group called the Knoxville Grass, and they let me sit in and sing some songs with them. And I learned to play doing that. I just loved to play. And they wanted me to play with them full time, so I started just playing bluegrass music that way, and bluegrass really got popular about the time I got involved in it, really. It used to be popular back in the 50s, with Flat and Scruggs and everything. And then it kind of cooled off in the 60s because of rock and roll, because of Elvis Presley. And in the 70s, when I graduated from high school, bluegrass music got really popular again. And I enjoyed getting involved in playing music like that then. And it just kind of morphed, I mean, I didn't have a plan per se to do this or do that. I just enjoyed playing and did what was there, and I enjoyed all kinds of bluegrass and country music. Country music mainly because of the harmony. That's why I love the Osborne Brothers so much, because of the harmony.
Did you ever go to school for music, or that was just all on your own in your own time?
It was on my own time. No, I never went to school for music. It would have been a good thing to do that, but I never really looked at music as a business, so I never did consider school for learning how to play or learn music, which is a great thing to do. If you're going to get involved in music, it's good to do something like that. But I never did. I kept basically singing until things happened, and they did. They happened for me. I got fortunate enough to advance that way. But it's good to learn your music. It's very good.
Was music encouraged for you? I mean, did you pursue that on your own, or was there a thing influence from mom and dad as well?
Well, they did. They were influential. Yeah, Dad was influential, and didn't say I don't want you doing this. I want you to do this, and that wasn't ever said to me. When I played music, well, I remember this vaguely. I was going up a particular road, and in Knoxville, when I was playing bluegrass music with the Knoxville Grass at the time, and Sonny Osborne called me and asked me if I could come and try out for Bobby and Sonny. I told my dad, and he flipped out. And I remember that moment. We were going up the hill. I said, I think the Osborne brothers want me to play with them. He just said, hallelujah. And so that's a real moment in my musical time that it felt like a great thing that I was involved in because of that. It kind of very vilified what I was doing was worthwhile, I guess what you might say, because I remember that moment real well.
How did you get hooked up with the Osborne Brothers the very first time?
Well, the very first time we played a thing called the Redgate Bluegrass Festival. And that was my Uncle Bud's festival, Pick and Grins Festival, not necessarily by Uncle Bud's, but he did take it over. First year, I can't remember exactly, 75 maybe, 1975. And we started playing with the Knoxville Grass and the Pinnacle Boys and several other groups, and it morphed into a really big bluegrass festival, a really good bluegrass festival. Bluegrass festivals were very popular at the time, and they let a lot of different bluegrass bands come in there, and it got really popular in Knoxville. And I met Sonny Osborne, Sonny and Bobby, through that. And with that meeting, I got to know Sonny, and Sonny called me and asked me to come and try out because Robbie, that's Bobby's boy, didn't want to go to Germany. He didn't want to go overseas, so they called me and asked me if I wanted to come and try out and join the Osborne Brothers. I said, let me think about it. Yes. So I went to try out, and it was a pretty quick tryout, but we had a great time, and that was kind of where I got started there.
Tell us about when you tried out. What kind of trials did they put you through? Well,
it wasn't a trial. They gave me a list of songs. Of course, I knew most of them anyway from listening to them on record, which they were vinyl records back in the day, which are very popular now. But back in the day, that's what you had to listen to. So I knew a lot of the harmony and knew a lot of the lead, knew most of the harmony. I'd say I knew 95% of their material that they did on the road. And he called me and said, learn these songs, Tennessee Hound Dog, Rocky Top, of course, and Ruby, and, learn all of these. So I sat for a week and listened to Osborne Brothers songs and sang to them like I'd always done before anyway. And then Mike Davis and I took a trip to Nashville to Sonny's house in Hendersonville, and went up there and went in and tried We didn't try. We did a song. That's, I know Pathway of Teardrops. That's one of their songs, 3-part harmony song. We did Pathway of Teardrops and got through a verse and a chorus. And Bobby got up and put his mandolin back in his case. Nothing was going on. He just put his mandolin back in his case, closed the case up, put his hat on, walked out the door, and left. And I said, Sonny, did I do something wrong or something? And he said, no, you're in. I said, well, that's good. I think that's good. But I had to be on the bus at 12 that night. Or 12 the next night, because Mike and I went back to Knoxville that day. And I got that job that day. So that was another memorable moment I'll obviously never forget.
How old were you when you joined them?
I was 22.
That's pretty impressive, because I know even growing up listening to them, worshiping their music and what they do, and being able to join them at an age that's close to me myself, because I listen to them. I have idols that I listen to and worship in music, and you get to do that at age 22, and that's just amazing. And that first year you went to Europe?
Yeah, that's the first time I'd ever been out of. Well, we went to Canada. I was with the Pinnacle Boys, which was really, really fun time. Twin fiddles and good harmony, and my Uncle Bud. And I learned a lot from Bud going down to Pick and Grin. I played music down there a lot. And just on my own and with other people to come in. There used to be a lot of picking going on down there at Pick and Grin. Very popular place to go for people to hang out and play music. It was just a fun time, and learned a lot of music that way. And the only time I went out overseas, I guess say, what really overseas, was to Canada. First time I'd have been out of Knoxville, really. And went to Canada and came back. And then with Bobby and Sonny, they called, and basically I went to Europe within months after being with them. And that's the first time I'd ever been overseas. So quick learn. Had to learn a lot real fast. And I learned a whole lot real fast.
What kind of new stuff did you learn being out of Knoxville and being out into the real world of music? Is there any things you learned being on an actual traveling tour?
Well, you learn to do things quick. You learn to do things. They had things called sound checks. That a lot of sound checks for us when we were starting out playing was all night. I mean, we learned to play songs, learn songs to play all night. We just loved it so much. But when you get in it professionally, you do it. You play your songs. You do your sound check. Okay, this sounds good. And then you put your instruments up, and then you have a show right after that. So everything has the steps to it. Once you become, I guess, what you call a professional or whatever. But when you do it for a living, stuff like that, it becomes part of your business, part of you, and you got to learn to enjoy it. You've got to learn to enjoy playing the music. It's a job, but you need to look at it as a great job, and not as a, oh God, I got to do this again. You don't want to. If you ever do that, you need to get out of business. But you got to enjoy what you're doing as much as you can. You have good times, you have ups and downs, but there's a lot of things that you can learn.
Yeah, I know Merle Haggard had a song basically kind of like that. He had a song called Footlights that talks about what the kind of struggles that musicians go through, but the fact that they have to put a smile on their face and play the show anyway, even if they don't want to. That's just one of the songs that I like to listen to, and this kind of music that I follow. And it's one of a lot of things people don't realize, that being in the music industry is a lot different than what people put on. It's not just going on stage and playing a couple songs and walking off. There's a lot more that's deeper meaning into it and what they go through.
Well, people don't recognize. They pay their money, they pay for a ticket, they want to come see a show. And you can't blame anybody for wanting to do that. That's what you come for. That's what we do for. But a lot of people don't realize when they see us on stage, we have to get there, just like they have to go to their job. We have to find a way to get there. We get sick. A lot of times we can't do things like we want to do them. We don't feel great all the time. But you still have to do your job. And which is, I'm not saying anything bad about that. I mean, we've got a great job because we're able to do it, but it's not what it's perceived to be a lot of times, because when you get done, you have to turn around and break down, and then you have to break your sound system down, put your instruments up, get back on the bus. If you're sick, you've got to take pills to get better, and you got to drive to the next gig. Some people just don't realize what you go through to do that, but it's just part of the business, and you got to learn. It's a learning curve, and you just got to learn how to do those things. And people like Merle Haggard that are that popular, which I've never been that popular. I've been around it a little bit with different artists, but to be somebody like Merle Haggard that's huge, Glenn Campbell, those type of people, I know what they go through. It's not easy to play 200-something shows a year when you're popular. It's really not easy. It's great and it's fun and it's a great gig to have, but every night it gets old. But so you have to put on that happy face and that kicking the footlights out, which not everybody does. Everybody don't do that.
Yeah.
But that's what that means. I've got to play this show. I don't want to play it, but I want to play it for you all. They want to play it, but it's not easy every night. It's not an easy thing every night. When you're a kid learning, it's a great thing. But once you start doing it for a living, you have to do it.
Yeah.
And you got to reach that happy medium, figuring out what part of this do I need to press to do to impress the people and stuff like that. It's just it's just a job. It's another job, but you got to do your best at it and do what people pay their good money to come and see you do. So.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do.
I remember you telling me that Papa, your dad, used to bring the guitar home, put it in the closet because he saw music as more of a job than a hobby.
Well, he did it. He started many, many, many years ago before I started playing. He actually quit before I really got into it. So he was in the business many years. He started when he was 13. And that was in 1937. And I didn't start playing until 1964, even pick up guitar. So he was in it for years and years before I even got involved in it. So it became a kind of a job for him. He went on the road too, but he played with some successful people too, but and played a lot on the road, and it gets hectic. Mm-hmm. Back then, they put a bass up on top of the car, and everybody rode in one car to a gig. That's tough. Now we've got Prevos. We've got $2 million buses. And so it's a lot easier now than it used to be back then.
Yeah, so it's definitely evolved and changed.
Yeah, but they still love the music, though, or they wouldn't have done it. They set the groundwork for us to be able to do what we do. We got to appreciate what the older guys did, like my dad, Bill Monroe, Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, and people like that did to do all this stuff. And we got to realize what they invested and to let us do what we know how to do too. And it's the same way with us. Hopefully people like you will learn, or people that are going to do this later on will learn from us and learn to appreciate what was done behind us too.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed because it used to be just beer joints, supermarkets, and school cafeterias, gymnasiums, and
Burger King openings.
Sure. Yeah. What kind of, have you ever done anything?
Absolutely. Like yeah. One of the first places I played with the Knoxville Grass was opening for a Burger King.
Where at?
In Knoxville on Magnolia Avenue. That's one of the first places I played with them.
I remember you mentioned one time you used to play a lot at Buddy's Barbecue. Can you tell us about that?
Played Buddy's Barbecue and I actually played in Gatlinburg. We played Gatlinburg every night for a long time. But Buddy's Barbecue, yeah, Buddy started. My uncle Bud was initially started the music for Buddy. Buddy built onto his restaurant, added seats and a stage, and we started playing music. That's kind of how that started. And we were the first group to play for Knoxville Grass. And then the Pinnacle Boys played. After that, we used to play every week, and it got really, really popular. And we had Ricky Skaggs came down and played with his group, Boone Creek. And we've had several bluegrass acts like the Country Gentlemen come down there and play. It was very popular because it was close to the University of Tennessee campus. So we've had a lot of students came down. It was a Friday and Saturday night thing that they loved to do. So they'd come down there and eat and enjoy the music all night. And they'd line up 2 hours before the show to come in. It was just really popular time. And it just laid the groundwork for what we did and the music. You know, it just got more and more and bigger and bigger.
That's impressive that teenagers and young adults would line up 2 hours before at a just a small restaurant just to hear a bluegrass band play their music.
Yeah, we played for 3 hours, so they got a lot of music and a lot of barbecue, a lot of beer, a lot of music. So it was a fun learning curve. That was definitely a learning curve for new artists, new players. You know, a lot of new bands coming up, and we want to play Buddy's Barbecue. We want to do this. We want to do that, and that's kind of what happened.
Earlier, you talked about when you talked about your dad and Cass Walker. There's a lot of people who don't know who Cass Walker is. Can you tell us about him?
Well, Cass was my dad. That was one of my dad's first jobs. Was with Cass Walker back years ago, like I say, probably back in the early 40s in Knoxville. Knoxville at one time could have been the Grand Ole Opry, but that's another story. But that's where Chet Atkins started. It's where Roy Acuff, they're all from that area, Knoxville area. So they started all that, and my dad was involved in that. That was before bluegrass music even came into existence. It was just called hillbilly music back then. And that was country and hillbilly music were one and the same thing. It wasn't like country music like we know in the 60s, 70s, and even now, of course.
Yeah.
But bluegrass music wasn't alive. Bill Monroe didn't even do bluegrass music. Him and Charlie did brother music, and there was a lot of brother music at that time. Louvin Brothers and Brewster Brothers and Jim and Jesse, and it was just duet type things, and it was just a different genre of country music, you might call it. And we got into that, and I lost track basically on what you asked.
Talking about who Cass Walker is.
Oh, Cass. Okay. Well, it started with Cass. A lot of it started with Cass. A lot of people, Don Gibson from North Carolina, came and played on Cass's show. There was a few other radio TV shows around other areas, but Cass Walker's the one I knew, of course. Very popular in this area. He owned a bunch of grocery stores. Everybody knows who Cass Walker is. If they've ever run across the Cass Walker shows or remember it from Knoxville, Tennessee, you can't forget Cass Walker. And a lot of people, even now, in the country music business know who Cass Walker is. And they probably should make a movie about the guy. But my dad started with him when he first started in the business. And I've been around Mr. Walker in a lot of different areas in the TV thing that we did. And I've done a lot of things for Mr. Walker. I've worked at the grocery store. But Cass Walker was I don't know, they could do a movie about Cass Walker. You just have to Google Cass Walker. I think ask Siri about Cass Walker. You can get all the information you want to about Cass Walker.
Yeah, I was researching Cass Walker, and there were a lot of people that said that a man that had the grocery stores, he was a self-made millionaire that even tried to run for mayor.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, he did that. But the thing about Mr. Walker, we did TV shows every morning from like 6 o'clock, 5:30 or 6 o'clock. We used to ride over there. Daddy would take me over there, and we'd go. It's an hour and a half, 2 hour show in the morning, every morning, and he'd advertise his groceries and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff that back then. The tape was so expensive that they taped the stuff on that they had to tape over Cass's show because of the tape being so expensive. They had to run commercials on it. So we lost a lot of good video of Cass Walker because of the tapes being so expensive.
Sure.
And the only ones they really kept are some people that came in like Buck Owens, Dolly Parton. That's why you can still see some of that stuff because they knew to keep that. But a lot of the stuff that Dad didn't get on there because the tape was so expensive.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I regret. I've looked and looked and looked, and it was just impossible to find anything because of that.
Yeah, that's a shame because I know I've seen one small tape of your dad, my grandfather, when he introduced Dolly, and that was one little bit of the tape that they did was when she sang "Dumb Blonde."
Yeah, that was around 1966, and you can still see that tape when you go to the Tennessee Historical Society in downtown Knoxville. They show that. They've got a separate section for the music, and Dad's got his guitar strap that Dolly used on that show, and they've got a tape of that show that they taped on Kaz Walker. It's a very interesting time for them, and I'm glad they archived a little bit of it anyway.
That's definitely good, and that's stuff I like to brag about to my friends at school about all that.
Well, I did a lot of that when I was growing up. They said, "What did your dad do?" Well, a lot of the dads, they said, "Well, my dad works at the post office, and he does this." And I stood up and said, well, I was kind of not really ashamed, but I was a little bit embarrassed. And well, my dad sings for Kaz Walker, and everybody kind of snickered because it was a snickering time for bluegrass music and country music at that time. And a lot of people that snickered at me in school, a lot of them became my friends later on when I started playing. They liked what I did later on in life. So life takes its turns. So do what you love to do and do the best that you can.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying one time that you had some people that maybe mocked you or teased you about that kind of like you said, and like later how they were like impressed with them when you did the talent show. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, talent show wasn't much, but I did win a talent show and got to go down Gay Street. Well, Gay Street was a good word back then, but now it's a little different. But went down Gay Street and got to hang my hand out the window and wave at everybody and say, "Hey, look, everybody! I won the talent contest." But anyway, that's short. I don't want too much to that, other than winning the contest in school.
What song did you sing?
Oh, it's a George Jones song. I was ruling the roost when I had all the chicks to myself. And then suddenly it happened, a funny little feeling I felt. I tried to outrun it, but it finally caught up with me. I could have run some. What was the name of the song? I could sing it, but I can't remember the title.
How old were you?
I was 10 or 11.
10 or 11. Did you ever tell your dad? Your
Lovebug. His name is Lovebug.
Lovebug.
Yeah.
That was the name of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever tell your parents that you were going to do the talent show?
No, I did not.
You did not tell
No,
them?
they didn't even know I was doing a talent show.
How did you tell them that you won it?
Well, the principal of the school came in and said, Paul's going to ride with us downtown for the Christmas parade because he won the talent contest at the school. And they said, what? What talent contest? So they didn't know about it. Anyway, that's the long and short of that. They learned from the principal. And they let me ride in the back of the car and wave and all that kind of stuff. No singing, but I did wave.
That's good. So going back to the Knoxville Grass and the Osborne Brothers, what kind of things did you get to do with them? Because I know you said you got to travel with the Osborne Brothers to Europe. And, of course, I'm sure you sang Rocky Top a handful of times, plenty of times. Did you ever play at Neyland Stadium?
We did. We got to do, Rocky Top is the theme song of the University of Tennessee Vols now. And we got to go and practice with Jay Julian, the great director of the University of Tennessee band, the Pride of the Southland band. And they were very popular, one of the best groups in the country at the time. And we rehearsed with them the day that we went in there. And with Bobby and Sonny, I got to go out on Neyland Stadium's field, on the football field. And we did Rocky Top with the band. And when we did that, the crowd went berserk, went nuts. And when Sonny hit the banjo and started playing, the floor of the stadium just started rocking like an earthquake, and the crowd went nuts. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And that was Bear Bryant's last game in Knoxville. And we won that game.
That's impressive.
Pretty impressive. I think it was. I'm not sure the date. I think it was whatever his last game was in Knoxville. I think it was around 1985, somewhere right in there. 84, 85, I'm not sure. Somewhere right in there. But you can look it up you can Google everything now. So just Google it and you can find out Bear Bryant's last game at UT. And that was it.
Yeah, I know the Osborne brothers were hotter. Well, they were hot as a pepper back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching an interview when I was doing some research over them that he would just come on stage, he would just start tuning, and people would just scream their heads off. They would just give the loudest applause because of how unique his style was compared to the earlier ones like Earl Scruggs and Glenn Campbell. He played a little banjo. He didn't play that much, but how seriously they took that music, and it made a big part of their lives. How they just lose their minds over him just tuning strings. It's really unique.
Well, they did that when he was tuning in Germany. That was one thing that I remember when we went on tour in Germany. He just hit it like you hit it when you're tuning, and the crowd would go nuts. So Farron Young was following us. He was on the show. Farron Young was on the show. Country music show that we did in 1979. We went to Germany.
So it was like a package set?
It was a package show, yeah. The Kendalls, Tommy Overstreet, Red Stiegel, what did I say?
Farron
Young, and a lot of different acts played on that show. When they heard Sonny hit the banjo, they went berserk. I don't know why, but they just did. And so Farron decided, said, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to come on. You all close it. So I'm going to come on first. So I'm not going to follow that. So Farron Young had to come on before we did.
Yeah,
that was something he decided he wanted to do, so he did that. But anyway, they loved the sound of the banjo for sure.
A lot of people don't know who Farron Young is. I know he's to me.
He's responsible for for Willie Nelson, a lot of acts. Chris Christopherson, and he started Music City News back in the '60s. So Farron Young was a great talent, one of the best singers in Nashville, and passed away too early. But he was a great singer, great guy, and a friend. He was a friend, and I really enjoyed his music and learned a lot from at a young age. I retained a lot at a young age, more so than I do now at an older age.
For sure, and I like Farron Young because I think he's a really, really, really good singer.
He's a great singer. Yeah, he was a crooner, a country music crooner, you would call him for that. He just had a great voice. It was just a natural.
Did you guys play the Opry much?
Yeah, we played it a lot. Yeah, I got to meet a lot of people. Of course, when you're young, you don't care, who you're around. It's not the big deal like it is now. I try to archive everybody that comes in now because I appreciate it more than I did then.
All right.
But back then, I met people like Marty Robbins, Ernest Tubb, Merle Travis. But I took it for granted, and really I didn't really take it for granted, but I didn't treat it like I should have back then.
Yeah, it's not like having an iPhone like you can today.
If I had an iPhone, I'd have taken 30,000 pictures back then, but we didn't have iPhones back then.
Yeah, did you ever take Polaroids, or did you ever
very, very few times. Very few times.
Is there any interesting stories you'd like to share, like instances at the Opry where you've met like a hero or a legend?
Well, I had Merle Travis. Merle Travis used to take a lot of pictures. He just enjoyed taking pictures at the Opry. And I just happened to see him. Of course, he knew Bobby and Sonny, but I just happened to see him in the dressing room and had my guitar and was sitting there, and he said, "Hold on just a minute." And I said, "Hey, Mr. Travis, well, you taking my picture?" He said, "Yeah, hold on, let me take your picture." So Merle Travis took my picture. I said, "I need to be taking your picture, not you taking my picture." But just things like that. And one time, this is my Minnie Pearl and Roy Acuff story. Now, I've told this many times because it's worth telling.
For sure.
But we played a Opry bluegrass show. We're just kind of right outside of the Grand Ole Opry.
You and the Osborne Brothers?
Yeah, and we played the Opry the night before, and the next day we played the Opry. Played the festival, and that was during the day. So I had a suit there, and I left the suit in the dressing room. So I came back the next day. I couldn't find my suit because we had to play at the festival. So I couldn't remember what dressing room we were in. So I started looking for my suit. I said, and then Minnie Pearl walks up and said, "Paul, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to find my suit. I've got to find a suit. We've got to play a show." He said, "Well, what kind of, it's a black suit?" And, I said, "Well, where's it at, or about where you at? And I'll try to help you find it." So Minnie Pearl started looking for my suit in the dressing rooms at the Opry House. And then a few minutes later, Roy Acuff said, "Hey, Minnie." He came in and said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, Paul has left his suit in one of these dressing rooms here, and I'm trying to help him find it." She said, "Well, what kind of suit?" "It's a black suit." He said, "Well, I'll try to help you find it if you need to find it." So, long story short there, but I don't want to leave it. I don't leave it short. I want to make it long because it's something that's in my memory and mine I'll never forget. I was in the Grand Ole Opry House, just me, Minnie Pearl, and Roy Acuff. Just us three. That was it. Nobody. And I stood at the entrance to the Grand Ole Opry House in the backstage area.
Yeah.
Looking down the hallway, and coming out of a dressing room was Minnie Pearl, and into another dressing room, and out of the other dressing room came Roy Acuff. So they were going back and forth in these dressing rooms looking for my suit. And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, people are not going to believe what I'm looking at. So I had the great Minnie Pearl, the great king of country music, Roy Acuff, looking for my suit at the Grand Ole Opry so I could put my suit on and go play.
I could see why.
That's why we're family down there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's a family at the Grand Ole Opry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've heard that story over a million times, and it's definitely
it'll be a million and one at least.
Yeah, it's definitely a story worth telling because as a young musician that plays guitar for definitely a well-known bluegrass band, but you have the king of country and Minnie Pearl searching for your suit of all people.
Yeah,
and it's just you guys in the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, they were just that kind of people. That's the kind of people who are down at the Grand Ole Opry in country music. They're family. They're just part of the family, and they just took it upon themselves to help me, to help a nobody, to find a suit. It wasn't a big deal. They were wanting to help. They didn't say find it yourself, but they wanted to help. And we're just family down there, and that's the great thing about the Opry.
Yeah, I totally agree because, me being fortunate enough because of what you do, I've been over 100,000 times, figuratively speaking, of course, but I've gotten to see all kinds of great things. Like when I remember when I was little, Toy Story came out and Riders in the Sky, they did the soundtrack on them, and I got to take a picture with Ranger Doug with my Woody doll and that kind of stuff, and he saw that I had it and just said, "Hey, that's a Woody doll. I did the music on that movie," and I got my picture taken with him, and it was just a cool thing because there's nobody's different. Everyone, they stay true to who they are. They're really down to earth down there.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Yeah,
because I know there's like a stereotype with country music that they're just a bunch of illiterate hillbillies, and I feel like that's just not true at all because you got, like what you just said with Minnie Pearl and Roy Acuff, it's people who that are like a family. They look out for each other in this business.
No, that's true. That's true.
Do you got anything else you'd like to share? Anything very unique? Tell us about when you first got started with Ricky.
Oh,
Ricky
well,
Skaggs.
I was kind of out of the business for a while, and Ricky called in 1995, and I was living in Knoxville at the time, and went to Nashville, try out with Ricky. Kind of the same thing I did with Osborne Brothers. Got a list of songs, tried out, and got the job with Ricky in 1995, and went to work with him. I've been with him for 22 years now. And I've done a few things on my own. I do some things, and I've done some CD work and cut some stuff myself on my records.
For sure.
And been doing that for several years now. But I'm still with Ricky working, and we're doing the Grand Ole Opry. Matter of fact, I've got to do it as we speak tomorrow night. So I'll be at the Grand Ole Opry on November the 14th, I guess it is, 2017. So. And we've got a few more Opry dates this year. The year's about over with because Christmas and Thanksgiving's coming up, and we've got another year starting 2018. And it's just been a kind of a roller coaster. Just kind of, as you get older, it goes by a little faster, but it's still a lot of fun, and I don't take it for granted like I used to.
When you think back, you often trigger something new or something important or something you didn't want to say. How do you remember when you first joined with Ricky? Is there any landmark event that happened? Or anything you can remember?
With Ricky?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you joined him in '95. Wasn't the Oklahoma City bombing?
That was the week, yeah. Well, that's the biggest reason. It's the easiest way to tell people I started because they remember that. It's like when John F. Kennedy got shot. So, unfortunately, the Oklahoma City bombing, that's the week I did start with Ricky at the Opry. That was in '95. I can't remember exactly the date, April of '95 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that very week that I went to work with Ricky.
And you've been with him for over 22 years.
22 years this year, yeah.
What are the benefits of playing with Ricky? What kind of opportunities have you been given?
Well, he's all kinds of opportunities, and I've learned a lot from Ricky. And Ricky's been in the business since he's 5. On his own, he worked with Ralph Stanley, of course, when he was young, and he was a prodigy, a child prodigy, a great player. Still is a great player. And I've just learned a lot being with him, with a lot of the guys in the band, and we've been all over the world several times and learned, how to handle ourselves and how to handle the music business and the music, and just we're still learning. It's a constant learning curve. So there's something new that keeps it fresh all the time too.
Was it any different playing with Ricky than playing with the Osborne Brothers, the Pinnacle Boys, and the Knoxville Brass?
Well, other than being younger with Bobby and Sonny, I mean, that's when I first got in it. My eyes big as saucers when you're young, and time doesn't go quite as quickly when you're young. So it's a little different because I was still in a very big learning curve then. Now we kind of settle into kind of what we know. But you still work at what you do. I try to work and try to do the best show I can do every night.
Yeah.
Try to sing even when I'm sick, or as well as Ricky. Sometimes he doesn't feel 100%, but we try to give 110% when we're playing.
Yes, sir.
So it's a different. It's a little different every night. Pretty much the same, but it's different, which makes it good because it makes your music. It keeps you on your toes when you got something new every night. So
yeah. I mean, because even when I see you guys rehearsing, when I'm fortunate enough to go to a show, I get to go backstage and see you guys rehearse. You guys will just play it like it's nothing and sit down, take a coffee break, and then when you guys go on stage, you play it 200% all the way out and just set the crowd on fire.
Well, that's just that you work. It's a work in progress. It's a constant work in progress, and the Opry's a little different than working shows, regular shows that we do, because we work 2-hour shows, and the Opry's just you're there for 2 songs. Mm-hmm. So we rehearse the songs that we're going to do on the show. So that's why it makes it a little bit easier to do the Opry. But it's fun to do the Opry because you get to see people you don't get to see all the time. You get to see artists that you don't get to play with a lot. Mm-hmm. So you're with a lot of different people down there that that you love and that you get to see a lot. And a lot of people I've seen at the Opry for 30 years.
And they're still there today.
They're still there today. A lot of them are, but some of them aren't. But it's still a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorite things to do when I have time to do it. And I know there's not a lot of those guys that were around at the time, because back in the day you only had like close to 10 acts that were doing stuff in Nashville, and a lot of them have already passed and gone, and there's not a whole lot of them left.
Well, a lot of the great artists, like we had several passed last year: Merle Haggard, Glenn Campbell, and Ralph Stanley.
Don Williams passed.
Away. Just a lot of different artists that made the music that I remember have passed on. And it's been kind of hard to see, hard to take sometimes because you miss it.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people don't like not necessarily not like, but it's a lot different than what they had back in the day. But it's a lot different because you look at like the music, it's a lot different compared to, because I remember Vince Gill was saying in an interview, he said that, it's not necessarily that the artists that people don't like, it's just the music's changing, it's evolving. And like with Hank Williams, his music was different than Merle Haggard, but we still like love it just as much. And it may not be like what the previous one listened to, but it's the way the music's going.
Well, it's changed a lot. It does. It's been that way for years. I mean, when Hank came on, he set a different standard, and a lot of things changed. Even back in the '60s, they had orchestras. That was different. Everybody said, "Oh gosh, you're going pop."
Yeah, that's what Glenn Campbell did.
And Glenn Campbell did. They said that about Glenn. Of course, he's not pop; he's country. But I mean, he don't consider himself country, but country music. I mean, but country will always change. It evolves. That's just it. And some people hate it. Some people love it. It'll always be like that.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, to me, it's always been a thing that's close to my heart because, like I said, like you grew up with it with your dad. I grew up with it with you, and it was always playing in the house. So that's what I've come to know and love. That kind of thing.
It's all about the music. It's all about the song.
Yeah.
It's all about the song. However you do it, if people love it and you love it, then that's okay. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But some people don't like what people do. Some people don't like the way music's played now. Some people don't think it's country per se as they know it to be country.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Some stuff I like, some stuff I don't like. But I don't put people down because of it. It's just you either like it or you don't like it.
Absolutely.
If you don't like it, you can't help that. But let people be what they want to be, and if it doesn't succeed, then they may try something new. But don't knock somebody. I mean, give them a chance. At least they're making music.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Give something to give to the people. Like what their heroes did. They try to do it in their own way, and that's actually a really good thing for people to be original with their stuff, because it's in the music industry, it's really easy to take credit for like a certain kickoff or solo, or especially lyrics, like with Spotify, people trying to give rights to the writers and the credit that goes uncredited for a lot of artists.
That's true.
I mean, because I know Taylor Swift was a big advocate for giving credit to the writers and the artists, making sure they got their dues.
Mm-hmm. That's the way it ought to be.
I agree. What other kind of benefits did you get? Because I remember vaguely you talking about Steven Seagal, the actor, taking you guys out to dinner after a show.
Right. He was doing a movie in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he actually came on and introduced us, excuse me, Ricky, and took us out to eat. And you just get a chance to meet people like that, movie stars and other artists, and so there's some great perks in this business, but you got to they're just people just like we are.
Yeah.
And you don't put people down because of that. I'm just saying they're human just like we are.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's human. That's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
But that's a great thing about this business. You learn a lot quickly in the music business. You do learn a lot, and I have learned a lot. You learn a lot about people in this business as well as playing golf. I play golf too, and you can learn more about a person and playing 18 holes of golf with them than you can 2 or 3 weeks trying to talk to them or going to dinner. So, it's just on what you do. You just got to take advantage of what you do and use it to the best of your ability to learn things. And the music business is a great place to learn things and learn about life, especially as a songwriter. You learn about life, and you're aware of things when you're trying to write. What's going on around you? What's been going on around you? What's not going on good around you? Unfortunately, but you just, when you're a songwriter, you think about all these types of things, and that's a good thing. It's good to learn about life.
I totally agree. What kind of advice do you have for young artists? Because I know a lot of people my age, have been playing guitar like myself at a very young age. I picked up the mandolin at age 2 or 3, and I wouldn't call myself a prodigy, but I like to think that I'm fairly good at it. So for young artists that want to get started in the business, what kind of advice would you have for them?
The first amount of advice I would give is to get saved, get right with the Lord. That's the first thing I'd say, and I mean that sincerely. Second thing I would say is to learn your craft and learn it as good as you can learn it. Don't be scared. Do what you know how to do. Learn what you want to learn, and listen to people, because they might not be great. Some of them might be terrible. Some of them might be great. But you can learn from everybody, and just take it and try to learn the best way you can learn, and do what you know to do is right. But Christ in your life is first and foremost thing. You do that. If you don't start there, you're off on the wrong foot. Start there and then learn the other things.
I noticed on your hat you're wearing a Flat and Lonesome. Is that a band?
They're a great bluegrass group, and a lot of great people in that band. Kelsey Harrigal and Charlie and a lot of great players. It's a good group, good new group, and I could talk about them all night, but I won't do it. But I kind of like the hat too.
Yeah,
Kelsey gave me the hat, but they're a great group, great people too.
Charlie, is she the singer?
Yeah,
Charlie's
a great singer. I look for her to be one of the best singers in bluegrass music and country music.
Because I remember, I think I heard them, and it was just they'd get so high and so perfect pitch that, it just blew me away the first heard them. When I heard that song, You're the One, she just hit those notes perfectly.
Yeah, Charlie's a great singer.
She's a really talented singer.
Really good group.
Would you say that people should work on their singing as much as their instrument?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think bluegrass music needs to lend itself more toward singing as well as playing. There's so many great players now. It's crazy how good these guys are. I've been around the best players that probably have ever played, because everybody wants to play with Ricky.
Yeah.
So he's going to get the best, and he has. And I've been around the best players that they are.
Sure.
And the thing about it is, when I was growing up, there was one instrument that they were great at. Now they're all great at 3 or 4. So everybody's getting really, really great and talented playing their instruments, which is a good thing. But the one thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting, they're starting to do a little bit better job of it now, is singing. Singing was the main part of music back in the day. The singing was the thing, and the music was the back. They just backed up the singing.
Yeah.
But now it got to where it was the other way around. It flipped around, where the music became the dominant thing, and the singing was just whatever it is. But I think if they concentrated more on the music and the song, it would help the music too. So that's my soapbox. I'm gonna get off of it for a while, but that's about the truth. I think if they look at the music, at the singing of it, the singing part of the music business, it would help the whole industry a whole lot more.
Yeah, because I know playing with the Osborne brothers, I would imagine you have to really sing out as high and loud as Bobby's can sing.
The singing was the main thing with Osborne brothers. That's what made them so different. Bobby was different, and Sonny's playing was everything about the Osborne brothers were their deal, their sound. They had their own sound, which was what everybody tried to do back then. They weren't clones back then. Everybody wanted to do something different, and it got to where everybody wanted to be a clone. Sound, do pick an Earl Scruggs break exactly like Earl Scruggs played.
Yeah.
There's only one Earl Scruggs.
Yes, sir.
And which is a great thing to copy Earl Scruggs. Don't get me wrong, but you need to find your sound, what instrument you play, what voice you sing with. You need to find your sound. It's great to sing and sound like somebody. George Jones even tried to sound like Hank Williams. Who doesn't when you're first learning how to do something? Or
exactly.
Your voice is an instrument as well. So when you're learning stuff like that, you try to copy who you love.
Exactly.
And but you got to learn later on in life to find your own voice. Even with an instrument, find your own voice with an instrument.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to be doing now.
Yeah, because I recall like when I first learned to play guitar, I listened to a whole bunch of Johnny Cash, and I find myself as I look back on it, and I still play just like it, and I can't help it. I play like Luther Perkins, where I mute the strings and play the boom chicka boom, and that just goes back to like what you listen to, what you practice for, you end up developing a similar sound. Like when I like to think I call myself Merle Haggard because I think I can kind of sing like him. Of course, granted, that's all I listen to.
Well, that's okay. That's a good one to listen to. Everybody thinks he's probably the best that's ever been. He probably is.
I think he is. He is in my book for sure.
A lot of people's books.
Have you gotten to play with any very popular or notable bands being in the career that you're in?
Oh gosh, yeah, everybody. I got to be a BG for one night.
Tell us about that.
I got to stay alive for a little while.
You got that's right, Ricky.
With Barry Gibb, we got to be we got to do some of the Gibbs songs and just stuff like that. Different artists, and fortunate being with Ricky, got to do that, and just some memorable times. And got to sing with, of course, Bruce Hornsby, and sing with Bonnie Raitt, and just different things like that. Run across people like that. And, just a few things, not a lot of them, but a few things.
Like collaborations on your CDs. I know you have Dolly Parton on one of them.
I was fortunate enough to get Dolly. Of course, loved Dolly. I always loved Dolly. I've known her since I've been growing up. She was part of the family back in the day. We're from Knoxville. She's from Sevierville. My dad knew her way back when.
Yeah, because they were together on the Cass Walker show as well.
When she started.
So it all goes back to Cass Walker almost.
A lot of it does. A lot of it does. And it's just different people like that. I've been fortunate. She sang on my album, sung one of my songs with me, and I was very fortunate to get her to do that. I really appreciate it. Love Dolly to death. She's very down to earth, and of course everybody says that because she is.
Yeah,
and it's the truth. She's just a great person.
Me myself, I remember I actually got to meet her too when you and Ricky Skaggs played at Dollywood when I was a kid, and I didn't think anything of it. I have a picture of me with Dolly that I'm lucky to have, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. But looking back now, as I'm older, and I realize like what kind of value that is, I think that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, it is. That's kind of what I went through when I first went with Bobby and Sonny at the Opry.
Yeah,
little things like that. When you're a kid, you don't think about stuff like that. As you get older, you start realizing how important those things are and how fleeting it is. It all leaves you a little bit quicker than you want it to.
Yeah. Tell us about your Ozzy Osbourne experience.
Oh, gosh, I've told you too much, haven't I? But the Ozzy Osbourne, of course, everybody knows Ozzy. And we did real fast. This was, we did a show, the Conan O'Brien show in New York City. And I met Ozzy I had to take a bathroom break, okay? Yeah. Long story short there. And I met Ozzy Osbourne in the bathroom there. Hey, Oz, how you doing? And I walked out. I said, hey, saw Ozzy Osbourne in there. Cool. So, anyway, we do the show there. And then 3 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks, something like that, we went to L.A. for the Grammy Awards show at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. And I went in, had to go to the little boys' room in L.A. at the Grammys. And who but else would I see in the bathroom but Ozzy Osbourne? So I said, "Hey Oz, how you doing? Good to see you again." He said, "Oh, hey, how you? Good to see." So I saw Ozzy Osbourne in L.A. and I saw him in New York City. So that's my Ozzy Osbourne experience.
Life is definitely a lot stranger than fiction.
Oh, definitely. I mean, but that's the truth.
I
could have met Ozzy Osbourne in any other place suitable other than where I met him.
A bathroom 3 weeks apart twice.
Right, and thousands of miles apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
When you look back, it's how music's definitely changed. It went electric in the 60s, with Sam Bush and the Newgrass Revival. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, I believe Sam to be the godfather of Newgrass. As well as Bill Monroe was one of the designers, along with Earl Scruggs, of bluegrass music. I think Sam Bush is very instrumental in birthing newgrass music because he put rock and roll with bluegrass instruments, which was very new at the time. And since then, everybody's been doing it. So I look at Sam as one of the instigators and starters of the newgrass sound.
Yeah, they played rock and roll music in the style of bluegrass.
Mm-hmm. I love bluegrass, but don't get me wrong, they love bluegrass music. They love Bill Monroe too. But Sam, everybody has to do something that they love to do.
Yeah.
And do it their way. And that's exactly what Sam and the Newgrass Revival did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They kind of had to, because rock and roll, that's pretty much what dominated the radios around that time.
Well, yeah, right around that time, rock and roll it took over, and bluegrass kind of went downhill. Yeah. At the time, a lot of people left bluegrass music. I mean, just starving to death there. And then bluegrass got popular again in the 70s and then a little bit in the 80s, and it kind of went down again. And it kind of comes and goes, springs up and springs forward. But it's always been there.
Yeah.
It'll always be there.
And I think because of Ricky, I like to credit him with taking it to the highest it's ever been, because after Bill Monroe passed, a lot of people in Nashville know that he promised Bill Monroe before he died that he would keep the music alive and root it, and now it's like one of the biggest things, in Nashville and Kentucky where it originated, that kind of stuff. And I like to think that he was responsible for saving bluegrass music.
Well, he's responsible for for continuing bluegrass music. Of course, he was very popular in country as a country artist.
Yeah.
Too, and he brought country music as I know it back to country when it kind of left too. So he's been responsible for a little bit for country music as well as bluegrass music. So very, very responsible.
He's left his mark in several bands.
Absolutely.
And Boone Creek, Country Gentlemen, all kinds of stuff. I mean, they did their success on their own, but Ricky definitely left his mark.
Yeah, he raised the level, raised the bar a little bit on each group when he went to them.
For sure. I mean, I like to because when he was doing that stuff with Keith Whitley is one of my favorite artists, and they were definitely prodigies in their own rank for sure. Because you were friends with Keith Whitley a little bit.
Yeah, I knew Keith a little bit. Sure did.
What kind of? Because going back what we talked about earlier, you mentioned you played golf. I was going to ask you, what kind of hobbies do you pick up being on the road a lot to pass time?
The best hobby is, of course, reading your Bible. But another good hobby on the road is playing golf. That's a great hobby. It's better than sitting in a hotel room. Mm-hmm. Get out and get outside and play golf.
I find that to be really true, because I know Vince Gill and Rascal Flatts, just to name a few, they all take up golf.
A lot of people do. It's relaxing for musicians, especially with the drastic running and carrying on that we have to deal with. Mm-hmm. Golf is a release for us. It's a relaxing release.
Yeah, I remember Glenn Campbell talked about he picked up golf at a young age, but he played it a lot on the road. It kept him, I'm not going to say sane, but it kept him focused, because he said he always took out his stress and whatever angers, anxieties he had on the ball. Mm-hmm. And, that's what helped him get really good at it later on, because he kept doing it and he played it. And when I played golf younger, and I did golf and music, I found it to be very relaxing as well. So I can understand why golf would be the go-to hobby for a musician that travels on the road.
It is, very much so.
I remember you talking one time about how you would play the opera back when they were doing 6-hour shows at the opera. You'd play a set and then go play a round of golf and then come back.
No, I wouldn't do a round of golf, but I would go hit some balls not too far, close to the Opry. We'd play a 6:45 open at Opry spot. Then we wouldn't play again until 11:30. So I had time to leave and go practice my golf game at Springhouse Golf Course and then go back to the Opry House and play the last show. So, yeah, a little bit. No, you can't play a whole round, but you can go hit some balls.
For sure. I get that.
Yeah.
So you're self-taught. You grew up in a musical industry. You got to play with your heroes at the age of 22, and you've had a whole career for about well over 35 years, and you've done a pretty good job of like having a decent resume in the music industry, and you've had all kinds of advantages playing with Dolly Parton, and I know you got to play with Marty Raybon and the Bee Gees, all kinds of like top artists, and this is all from picking up a guitar one day and just playing a couple of things that you knew from watching your dad.
That's right, exactly.
That's just an incredible story. This has been definitely a very educational experience. I thank you for doing this interview with me and teaching me all kinds of things about the industry, some things I didn't know going into this, and I just think that's really cool. Is there any final things you'd like to say or any final advice, tips you'd give to anybody thinking about doing the same thing that you did?
Do what you love. Do it the best you can do it. Put Christ first.
And that's it. Just that. Simple as that.
As simple as that.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
No problem. I enjoyed it.
I have too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.